New evidence has been brought to the surface as to why the Snyderverse should be licensed to Netflix, and it's pretty compelling. Hey everyone, welcome back to our movie news. Now, in my previous video talking about the Snyderverse on Netflix, we discussed James Gunn's comments on how Snyder had moved on. Now, that at the time was enough for me to believe that Snyder had truly moved on, which in turn allowed me to move on. However, since then, James Gunn has been talking about Superman Legacy and revealed that it's been in the works for over 6 months. So yet again, another thing was being worked on behind closed doors at Warner Bros. Discovery whilst they promised something else. Henry Cavill was back. No one can claim that Warner Bros. Didn't confirm that as well. They put it all over their social media accounts and even tried to get a quick cash grab with it. Multiple sources were reporting that Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill was in development and they were actively looking for writers. This was put into play by DeLuca and Abdi, head of Warner Bros. Pictures, after The Rock had gone over Hamada's head to bring Cavill back. But prior to Cavill's return, Walter Hamada had hired James Gunn to write Superman Legacy. Not only does that confirm that this report about Hamada bringing Cavill back for a crisis event was nonsense, but it could also argue that Gunn prioritizes his own projects over what fans truly want, because he would prefer to keep his own rebooted Superman story than what fans actually want, which was Henry Cavill's Superman. And no, you cannot use the excuse that clearly there was no demand for Henry Cavill's Superman as his cameo in Black Adam didn't improve the box office, because a 10-second cameo at the very end of a movie about an unknown DC character will not make any difference. What matters is what was going to come after it, a Man of Steel 2 and so much more with Henry Cavill. As soon as Gunn was in charge, he scrapped those plans for a Man of Steel 2. Sure, he didn't fire Cavill because there was no contract in place, but he was completely happy to keep the characters he introduced and to reboot Superman just after bringing him back, all because he had been working on a rebooted Superman story. I just don't like the way Cavill and us fans have been treated with this situation. Everything was pointing towards Cavill coming back for more. He had said it, the official Warner Bros. And DC pages had welcomed him back. You don't do that if it's just a one and done. And to now learn that Superman Legacy wasn't something Gunn had been working on since he took over as DC head, but instead over 6 months ago, really makes me wonder where his priorities are at. And he isn't exactly truthful on social media either. He's said many things that have turned out to be untrue or things he's debunked but then later actually happen. I've also been talking to people behind the scenes and I don't think I can take Gunn's word about Snyder as a fact. It's very easy to miss out on key information in tweets and just bend round the truth enough that it's not wrong but it's also not exactly what was said. And for me, as I've taken my time to really think about the whole situation and listen to other people's views, I think the only person I can take as a definitive answer as to whether or not Snyder has moved on is from Zack Snyder himself. That was the reason why I had said I had moved on in the first place, because I thought Snyder had too, and the main thing to focus on is if he is happy. But with Gunn's track record and what seems to be a sign of nepotism with his decisions for the DCU, I'm not going to let him speak for Snyder. So I know this may sound like I'm going a bit back and forth, and quite honestly, I am. But I think that is what happens when it comes to having an open mind, not closed-minded to one belief or one movement. If I see evidence pointing in a different direction to the one I'm in, I will look at it, and if it is valid, then I will allow it to influence my original opinion. So I'm sorry if to some that seems like I'm flip-floppy, but to me it just means I'm open to new ideas and new evidence that can affect my opinion. I think I've always made my opinion clear. I've always wanted the Snyderverse to happen, and that will never change. What will change is if I will push for it based on the evidence out there, and the evidence I had seen from Gunn at that point in time was enough for me to believe that it was time to move on from pushing for it. However, new evidence has surfaced since then which made the previous evidence invalid or less trustworthy. And I am learning. I'm not a professional in this field, I'm just a fan that is fortunate and unfortunate enough to have my opinion seen by a lot more people. So I will make mistakes or misjudgments or jump the gun too soon, but I'm happy to learn and improve. I think it's just about wording my views a bit more carefully. Sometimes it's just about sitting back and being patient and watching the reactions and other people's views before coming to a conclusion. But I'm very grateful for the support and all the welcome backs that I've gotten from the fandom. But anyway, back to the video. This fandom and movement has a lot of potential and a lot of positive motivation. It's great to see far less toxicity coming from this movement. One goal, hashtag sell ZSJL to Netflix. Not fire James Gunn or anything like that. If we can focus on the positive rather than the negative, then we are on the right track and have far more of a chance of making something happen. The main voices of this movement, like Sammy, also known as Snyder Queen, have been fantastic at making the goal clear and providing the right information for fans. We need to be positive and ignore the naysayers. Focus on ourselves and Netflix. That is the priority. If we get Netflix interested, then we are moving in the right direction. And thanks to Cyviator on Twitter, we can see that it is actually far cheaper to license the DC characters than some are claiming. Sure, it could be double the amount than what they have evaluated, but it shows that it isn't billions of dollars that some are claiming. And that's because this would be a non-exclusive licensing deal, not an all-out purchase of these DC characters. For example, look at how much Nextstar pay for Superman and Lois. Two huge characters for not as much as you would think, because they're not buying the characters. Even if it was $500 million to license all the DC characters needed, think about how little that is in the grand scheme of things. Amazon purchased Rings of Power for $750 million with a licensing fee of $250 million and a development fee of $465 million. So it is very plausible that the same could happen with DC and Netflix. The main thing we need to do as a fandom is persuade Netflix to want to license the DC characters. They are the main ones to persuade. If they're interested, it becomes far easier for this to happen. We know Warner Brothers are interested in licensing IPs to reduce their debt, but they need someone interested in that IP. If we show Netflix the positive demand for this, then they could be persuaded. So a new trending day will happen on March 18th. The previous one was a big success, even out-trending the Flash trailer that was released during the Super Bowl. It was the most viewed trailer of the Super Bowl, and hashtag sell ZSJL to Netflix was able to trend more than the Flash. That shows the demand, but we can do even better. The next trending event needs to be bigger. I'm going to try to spread the word as much as I can, and if you can too, that would be great. As long as it is positive and respectful, then we should do it. Positivity is the fandom's greatest ally, and if we want to succeed, then we need to use it to our best ability. And being positive is far nicer than being negative, so it's a win-win. The way I see it, we're not hurting anyone. Anyone that is malicious or toxic towards the positive majority of the movement are people we shouldn't worry about. They are clearly hurting and want attention, so let's not give it to them. By keeping in our lane and staying respectful and positive, we not only show Netflix that we are a positive fandom, but it also encourages others to join the movement. So like I said, it's a win-win. But that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!